This is Work and Learn Abroad. Welcome to this new episode of Work and Learn Abroad. Today I am with Niall, that is a security and software engineer. And he is going to talk about his experience and Irish being living abroad in places like Germany, Japan, and in the UK. So welcome, Niall. How are you doing?
Thank you, Leo. Very good, thank you, and thanks for the opportunity for talking with you.
My pleasure.
And working with you.
Yeah, yes. It's great to have you in the show, and maybe we can start by talking a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm here currently working as a security engineer, and I have a security operations centre here that I manage on a global basis here for the organisation, and we primarily, protect the environment against malicious or cyber intrusions. And as you know and you can appreciate, it's pretty prevalent these days, the level of attack, the quality and the skills are improving, and these are the skills of attack, and the artistry associated with the attacks are really kind of diverse, are wide and diverse. And this is it gives an interesting component to my work. I kind of, when I come to work in the morning, I jump out of bed to come to work, and I like that. And I naturally have a curious brain and mind as to how these vectors of attack are being kind of shipped and deployed. So this is part of my my research area that I like to kind of do in work and outside of work.
Niall, and that kind of curious mind that you have was one of the things that triggered your idea to go and work abroad. And when did you do it? Why did you do it?
Yeah, that's a very good point there, Leo. Actually, and part of the Irish person's DNA is that they have migrated a lot down through the years and down through the centuries. They've never stayed put. And this might be from political reasons. It could be for food reasons or poverty reasons.
Yeah.
Irish people, by and large, it's in their DNA that they travel. You know, and I'm no different. And this, coupled with a curiosity, made me travel to foreign countries, Germany, UK, and in particular Japan. And my interest in Japan started off with, from the cultural and the entertainment aspects of it, and deep cultural aspects that you would associate with Japanese culture. For example, the kabuki, even sumo wrestling is quite unique. Their sport is different. Their geisha, their whole performance art is quite unique to what we experience in the Western world.
Did you start to get this interest when you were in high school, or where you were at the college level?
A bit of both, Leo. A bit of both, even through the eyes of movies. And I remember Kurosawa.
Kurosawa. Definitely.
Yeah.
Brilliant movies.
Brilliant movies, and still to this day, they're ageless.
They're classic. Yeah.
They're classics. And this is really what kind of spiked my interest in Japan in particular. And I wanted to see where what the motivation for these movies were. Was this a typical Japanese man's way of thinking of life, or what was behind this? So this was what motivated me, along with my curious mind that you said, that I set it in personally on my agenda and my itinerary, that I have to go and travel to Japan.
So you were through this mind process about going to Japan. So when actually you decided, and how that comes to be? This was always in my mind. And even, after high school, I went to university. I studied as a mechanical engineer starting off, and that was my undergraduate degree. And when I was finished on my final year, I saw it being advertised in one of the college centres, in one of the college bars and cafes. Would you like to work in Japan? Oh, nice.
Would you like to engage yourself with an exchange program? If you're a graduate
and would you like to be exchanged with another Japanese graduate, for that Japanese graduate to be placed in the Irish industry, and for you as an Irish graduate to be placed in Japanese industry? Would you like this? And I saw this and I could not believe my eyes. And I said, that's it. I'm going to apply for a job. And I submitted an application, and I waited for the application to be acknowledged. And then suddenly, out of the blue, when I wasn't expecting it, I was called to an interview.
A couple of months later?
It was a couple of months, all right.
So you get another job going on? And
I had...
Yeah, so you were kind of, I might go to Japan, but I'm going to get this job as well.
I was hoping and I was praying that this would materialise, and so much so that I kind of put pressure on the authority that was advertising for the job.
Okay.
That when will we hear back if it was successful or not? And that kind of put pressure and urgency on. While waiting, I kind of wanted to do nothing. I wanted to sit
because
down.
you were convinced I'm going to Japan.
Exactly. I was going to go by hook or by crook.
Yeah.
But they got back and I got an interview, and it so happened that the president of the Japanese organisation was visiting Ireland, and he was doing some business with Enterprise Ireland. And Enterprise Ireland set up the interview with the president, and I spoke to him that, listen, I really want to go to Japan. This is my skill set. I can go to Japan with a degree, with knowledge of how industry works, with mechanical engineering. Give me a job. Are there any openings there? And the interview itself with this man, he could speak English.
Nice.
Very, very fluently. And I had no Japanese. I had zero Japanese. I had a few phrases that I would have picked up from the Japanese movies.
Yes.
Like the Seven Samurai, like Kurosawa. But I didn't think they were appropriate at the time. And we did the interview in English, and he was a very charming man. And he said he would get back to me with a decision if he would give me a job or not. And later that day, I got a phone call from Enterprise Ireland saying that Mr. Yamagata would like you to join the organisation.
Great.
And that was
That's
the start.
it.
That was the start of the rest of my life, in my eyes. Obviously, I had some papers to get together.
Yeah.
Visas had to be sorted out.
Yeah.
Contracts had to be sorted out. There was a bit of anxiety about, okay, now that I've made my interest be clear, how will I protect my interests?
Yes.
And pretty soon, there was an agreement on the table. A contract was written in English, reflecting their expectation of me, of what I should do in a Japanese organisation, and I was completely happy with that.
Okay.
And once I got the contract, I signed it, and I looked over it, and I was so happy with myself, with that, with my new life beginning. And if you want to fast forward, then
Yeah, but wait a minute. You got the contract signed. Then you got papers. Papers got sorted, and then at some point you got the tickets, right?
And at some point I got the tickets.
So there's always this question that I do here is like, we know that when we go through this process going abroad, at some point in your life, in your travel to the place or getting to the place or being at the place where you actually get this big moment of, actually, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm doing this. What am I doing? And when this happened to you, and how do you feel, or how do you cope with the moment?
Yeah, and once those documents were signed, every night I went to bed, and before I went to sleep, I was there, oh my God, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? I'm going so far away from everybody I know. I don't speak the language, but this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to test myself. I wanted to see how I'd react, if I could learn the language, if I could integrate into the culture of Japanese. And I remember, if you fast forward, you're talking about the tickets. I remember sitting on an airplane, a Japanese airline, JAL, flying into Tokyo. In the air, it's at least a 14-hour flight, and I remember 7 hours into the flight, kind of halfway there, and I was saying to myself, I cannot return.
Yes.
I have to keep going. And I remember the food was coming out, and the food
the food is brilliant for
child.
Yes.
The food was amazing.
Yes.
I had all this sushi, I had this teriyaki,
Yeah.
I had lots of sake, I had lots of Japanese
beer.
beer.
Because they profile liquors, yeah.
Yes. And the food, the rice, I thought, this is it, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
At least I can eat the food.
Yeah.
And when I landed, yes, it was a complete culture shock. It was like, it was visually very different, because if you're in the city, you see all the neon signs. In Limerick, where I come from in Ireland, neon signs only, was a dream.
Yeah.
I never saw a neon sign in Limerick, and until recently. But at the time, back in 1995, that's when I went to Japan, and landed in Tokyo, and we were met and we were greeted there by members of the organization. It was very well organized. We were put up in hotels. They really were. They were very hospitable. Their generosity was boundless, was limitless.
And you where are you going to be working?
And then, so we flew into Tokyo, and the organization that I worked for was in Osaka.
Okay.
And so once we arrived there, we stayed for a night. We were met by people from the organization there, and they gave us further flight tickets down to Osaka. And we flew down to Osaka the next day.
At this point, everything was in English and it was fine.
Everything was in English. Everything was fine.
Okay. So you still didn't have that, because in my case, the first night that I arrived into Japan, we were taken to a hotel, and then you're a foreigner, you're in a new country, you want to explore. So I just went to the company's store at the corner, and everything was in Japanese, and I was like, yeah, I'm in Japan. I need to speak Japanese.
Definitely.
So,
we had that moment. I had that moment too, Leo, because when we were in Osaka, and once we started going to our 9 to 5, my 9 to 5 job, it was all Japanese.
Yeah.
Because the guys that greeted us from the airport were fluent in English.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But
Maybe that happens to me. Yeah.
Yeah, but the people, the very important people that keep the organisation going, the guys and girls that come in 9 to 5, Monday to Friday and Saturdays, which was a bit of a culture shock to me as well.
Yeah.
They don't speak English, and they don't speak English at all. So it was up to me to start learning Japanese, or at least start trying. They tried as well. They used whatever English they had to help along the process. But if it was incumbent, I was expected to start learning and to start practicing and at least trying.
Yeah.
And
that's expected. That trying is a thing that they expect from you.
They expect that.
Yeah.
They expect that. And if you try, they will help.
Yeah.
But if you don't, and you constantly expect them to kind of provide with them, then they'll just...
things are going to be shut down.
They're going to be shut down, exactly.
One thing that it happens to in my case, that English is not my native language. So we usually, when we go to learn English, we think that we need to be perfect in English. So one of the first walls that we get to is that I need to be perfect. So we get a lot of resistance to the language, because I don't know how to say this. I might sound like as a fool. And so once that you go through all this, then you start to be free about the language, and you start to actually embrace the language. And how is for you in your case? Because English is your native language, so now you're going to Japanese. That is a completely different language.
That's very insightful of you, actually, Leo, because I was like that. I was going, my English has to be perfect here. My English has to be perfect, and and I'm not going to talk until I'm perfect.
You're Japanese, you mean?
Yeah. And I soon found out that this wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
And I was conscious. I have to say I was conscious, because I wanted to say things properly, and I wanted to represent. I felt I needed to represent myself properly.
Yes. And the country, because there's...
And the country.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know. And in hindsight, looking back, I put myself through too much pressure, you know, and it was okay to have it was okay to have bad Japanese, because bad Japanese was better than no
Japanese.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah.
And on that basis, that's how I communicated. And the Japanese people, and especially the Japanese people living in Osaka, they're naturally comedians. They love to have fun. They like to have fun.
Yeah.
And me here talking pidgin Japanese, really bad Japanese, was a source of amusement.
Yes.
So that was my kind of role,
Yeah.
to provide entertainment.
Yes.
But by interacting with them, they brought me in and they understood my difficulties, and they did help me along with learning my Japanese. They would, in a very friendly and instructive way, say, oh, maybe you should say something like this, you should say it this way instead of that way, and maybe you can join two sentences together by using certain words. And this was monumental. This was huge and pivotal in the way that I started learning Japanese, and I just stopped trying to be perfect and started being more human.
And enjoying the place and the people
and enjoying the place and the people. And sometimes what we did, and through this process, you might have heard this phrase as well, nomication. Communication through drinking.
Yeah.
And nomimono is what the Japanese call drink, or nomimas is the verb to drink.
Yeah.
And if you can drink and communicate, I know I don't mean to be promoting alcohol here, but that's what the Japanese, they actually emphasize nomication. And nomu, the drinking could be drinking tea, it could be drinking coffee, it could be drinking juice, it could be drinking beer, it could be drinking sake.
But
it could
sharing that moment, they really enjoy and kind of look for that, especially if you are from abroad, because they as you want to learn, they want to learn.
They want to learn. They want to learn as well. And suddenly I realized through this process of nomication, boundaries and fears and conscientiousness disappeared from me. And I felt I went from having no Japanese to bad Japanese to having good Japanese to having good Japanese to a level that, okay, I want to know how good I am, how bad I am. So I went and I did the Japanese Noryoku Shiken, the test.
Yes.
And that was a kind of a marker that, a proficiency test that I could measure myself. I could study for, because the curriculum, the material was there, and then I could understand where I was.
Yeah.
And I felt that once I studied for that, I passed it, then I was able to, so I went from zero Japanese to having this level of Japanese that I could actually go to university in Japan and study further. So this was, to me, gave me great confidence. Me great confidence. And integrating into Japanese society.
There we got people from several countries listening to the show. People from the States, from Mexico, Peru, Taiwan, even some from India. So just to say some of the countries that they might be thinking about going abroad, and maybe Japan is one of the destinations that they might choose, or even Germany. So what would be an advice for them if they're thinking it doesn't sound that bad, and I like the Japanese culture, the pop culture, the J-pop culture, right?
The J-pop culture, yeah.
So what could be an advice to get a job in Japan, or to get a job in Europe? We can go either ways.
Yeah, no, that's a really valid question as well, and I think it comes down to the individual, and what they want out of life as well. And whether it's Japan, Korea, or China, to experience a new culture, the curiosity to experience a new culture, and the openness to experience a new culture, because every culture comes with good and bad, and understanding that fundamental difference. But what makes things very, very interesting is the food, the food and its culture within that kind of society. But in order to get in there into society and start integrating into that kind of society, if you're visiting there casually, or if you're visiting there where you want to develop a career, understand what you can contribute to that society, and if it's a software engineering role, if it's an artistic role or something, whatever you have the confidence to build and experience new cultures with that. And if it is, in my case, it was my engineering experience.
What advice, sorry to interrupt you, what advice, if you're doing interviews or trying to approach people there, what could be good into that, maybe cover letter or in an interview to do?
Demonstrate your willingness and your interest in that recipient culture. Okay. In my case, it was Japan. I had an inherent interest in the culture due to the movies and kabuki and all this kind of stuff. And I had an interest. And make sure you convey that interest in your cover letter.
Okay. Besides the technical skills, that bit is important then.
That bit is very important because it's not just a job you're looking for. It's a lifestyle you're looking for. And the job actually, the irony is the job is secondary.
Okay.
You know, and it's your interest in the culture, it's your interest in the food, it's the interest for integrating yourself into that culture. And I think if you have that interest along with your curiosity, you will be a success.
Because maybe there's a shift in how we approach job hunting in maybe other countries. If we take Japan into being our goal, right?
Job hunting goal, yeah.
And that's maybe one of the cultural shocks that you might be our business, how they do business. So more. Even further than the technical skills, being part of the group or being part of into the society, in the culture is important.
It is, Leo. It is very important, and it is a different culture from the way they do business, and this is part of their culture as well. How they go about business and subsequently working, and if you look at the nature of and the history of Japan, it's a feudal country, based on feudalism, back through the medieval times. Back to the various emperors and the shoguns, through the shogunate eras. Mm-hmm. To this day, you can see feudal elements to the way they do business. There's one appointed person that makes all the decisions. Mm-hmm. That's good and bad. Yeah. You know, when it comes to if you want a decision made quickly, it'll take time because it has to go through the right people.
Okay.
This is very feudal, and this goes back centuries. This hasn't changed. And in spite of how modern and how the latest technology that Japanese organizations might employ, their thinking can be quite feudal. But if you embrace that and understand it and have patience and tolerance, you will flourish. Yeah. You will, if you fight that existence of a known business model, you will flourish. There are certain kind of things there that I found a bit odd, that if the boss stays late in the office, you're kind of nearly
expected to, yeah.
Yeah, you're nearly expected to do that.
Yeah.
But I found a very kind of good hack. I hacked the system, if you like. I found that I had hobbies. I did kendo, for example. You know, I was part of a kendo club, which was part of the Japanese organization. So I always used the excuse, because it was legit. I said, sorry, boss, I got to leave now. It's 5 o'clock because I got to do kendo.
Yeah, and they see it well because I used to do the same.
Yeah.
It things that actually is not like I don't want to be here. I got something else to do that is related to your country as well.
Yes.
And they embrace again this.
They embrace that. Embrace that. And if you can think like that on your feet of how you can work your lifestyle and what you want to get out of it, the Japanese culture would be very, very consistent with whatever you want, and you can make it work that way. For example, by joining those clubs, you know, exploring other elements of the Japanese culture.
And that is expected, because I remember that a friend who used to work in the Hitachi company, they used to say that two of the guys in their scrum team of 10 were just specific for the football team, just because they needed to be good outside the company, and they were not working as they were expected to be because they were just good, but that was the way that they were providing to the company a good name and exposure
That's it.
And that from us, well, from my point of view, is like, well, they are not working, but that's good. That yeah, some other way to think about business as well.
And Leo, that's a very important point as well that you bring up. That whole perception of corporate Japan, and whatever corporate organization you're a member of, you are indeed a member of the family. It is a family thing. You're treated like a family. You know, you are treated like a family, and this is all part of the, whether you agree or disagree, part of the expectation of spending a lot of time at work.
Yeah.
And but you are treated like a family member, and you are the pay and the salary is decent. It's pretty good.
Yep.
I know that when I compared my salary that I was receiving in Japan with my counterparts in Ireland, it was a lot more, you know. And I know there was an exchange, a foreign exchange currency thing going on there as well. But the whole expectation, if you behave appropriately in the family, quote unquote, you will be treated. You'll be rewarded equally so. And I found as well when things weren't so good or rosy, I got sick, for example. I got this natsubate, they call it, and that's where the summer gets so hot and intense that you get dehydrated, and it's quite bad sickness. And even Japanese people suffer from this if you don't treat your body properly, if you don't hydrate properly, if you don't eat the right food, the right nourishing food, because in the hot oppression of a Japanese summer, you tend to just eat ice cream or drink cold liquids, and this is catastrophic for the body. And I had natsubate, and I saw that all my colleagues from Japan were coming to my house, bringing me bento boxes of food, bento boxes of rice and nice food. And they cared. And they cared because they saw me as a family member, even though I was from Ireland and not necessarily a Japanese person per se, but they saw me as part of the family and they treated me so. And even though I couldn't speak fluent Japanese, I was learning Japanese, and that to me was a very endearing moment, where when I was down and weak, they actually brought food and things and made sure I was okay, and that was good. And this actually promoted me or prompted me to be better.
Better with them, better with the
and be understanding when they suffer their downness, if you like.
For any last advice for people that are listening to the show that they might want to go abroad, Niall, what could you say to them?
I think it's very important to get your documents right, to get your travel documents right. Without that, and again I'm going to go back to the Japanese experience, without that, and I saw as well other foreigners that were in Japan from India, from Germany, from Ireland, from England, from Costa Rica, from Spain, from Mexico, you know, I could see that they hadn't got their contracts right. Albeit they had contracts, but they might have expired, you know, and there was no kind of set kind of, you know, renewal process. And I saw some colleagues of mine that they should have gone down to what they call the shiakusho, which is the town hall.
The town hall,
The town hall. And it's quite important that you, even though you're a foreigner and even though you have your visas and even though your papers are in order, that you check in with them on a regular basis. I'm here, my name is Niall, my name is Leo, I'm living here, this is my address, what do I need to do to ensure, you know,
that legally be here at the country,
that I'm here legally, that I'm recognised, and that I might get some tax concessions, you know, so it works both ways. And they say, we'll now put you on the system, can you fill out this form, you know, and now you're formally in the register of the local government, not the Japanese national government, but the local regional area. You're now in the town hall, and you're part of the register. They'll even send you out special bags that you can use to on a weekly basis to put your bins out. You know, things like this that are very important, because the Japanese bin collections is very important, and it's very regimented. They have brown bins, they have green bins, they have all of this combustible stuff. It's very regimented, and if you don't have the right bags,
you can be charged.
You can be charged. You can get fines, and so all of this can be fixed if you register on the minute you're in the country and the minute you're legal, touch base with your local town hall, the SHIAC show, and they will start the process. And they'll even send you documentation when it's coming up to maybe 2 months prior to your renewal process, your contract, that they'll send you reminders, and you'll get letters, and they're nice letters, and reminding you. Now they'll send you emails, and they even send you little presents as well. The first time when I went to Japan, I got a free box of tissues.
Yeah, true.
And even when you walk the streets of Japan, when they're advertising, they give you free tissues. Very interesting indeed.
Okay.
But
great. No, it's a great advice, and highly recommend it as well, because yes, I got good experience through being registered with the town hall at the SHIAC show. Well, thank you so much for your time, Niall.
And thank you, Leon, and thank you, everyone.
And if someone wants to get in touch with you, is there a way, like email or LinkedIn or whatever you?
Yeah,
want?
I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I'm on as the Irish might say, Niall McGrath, but it's Neil McGrath, and I currently work in the Security Operations Centre of Workday.
Great. Okay, so, and for getting in contact with me, it will be leonardo.martin@pm.me. Thank you so much, Leon.
Thank you, Leo. Pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
This is Work and Learn Abroad.